Good morning, everyone. Good morning, friends in the Caribbean, also in the Netherlands and around the globe, because we did see a lot of different friends who are joining us from different countries. We are going to start very soon, and we wanted to welcome you to our Ask a Water Expert session today. This is a partnership from the embassies of the Netherlands in the Caribbean, from the Netherlands Water Partnership, the organization that I have a pleasure to represent today. And today we also have a special guest and a special presence and partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank Group. And today we're going to try to keep the session very, I would say, interactive. And we're also going to be recording today. So we want to be sure that everyone is also in the loop to that. I will like to ask also my team to show, of course, we have the Mentimeter today to keep the engagement continuous for today, to hear out where are you coming from, and also what are the topics that interest you the most. This is not the first, but it's the third session of a series that is called Tackling Water Challenges Together for a Resilient Caribbean. We have the pleasure to be doing this thanks to the support and the partnership of the embassies of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and the Caribbean. Also in coordination with our Ministry of Infrastructure and Water, who are also doing a lot of activities for the Caribbean as well. And thanks today to really a wonderful roster of experts and organizations, both in the Netherlands and the Caribbean, which wanted to come together for this discussion. To make this session a very good session, we ask you to please remember that we have a recording in process. If you're speaking, we ask you to actually be engaged. We welcome that. Please turn on your cameras. We want to see you today. We want to hear where you're coming from, what topics you're working on, which island you're collaborating. If not in an island, still, if you're in Suriname, if you're in Mexico, we're really glad, Costa Rica, glad to hear how things are working in your coast. Please also to make sure that we have a good collaboration today. We want to see your full name, if it's possible, and which breakout session you will be joining to make it a little bit more interactive as well. Today, we will start with this short introduction. My name is Janet Tapia. I'm Project Manager for Climate Resilience here at the Netherlands Water Partnership. Welcoming you today from The Hague. I would say a little bit cold and windy The Hague. And today we'll have actually a small conversation with Anaite Mills from Inter-American Development Bank. She's a climate solutions specialist working for many years in the region. And we've had a really interesting discussion on how we can, under the umbrella of tackling climate adaptation challenges together, how can we optimize the links between our colleagues in the region who want to adapt to the climate challenge that we have together globally. And today I give a special welcome to all the islands and the countries that are in the region who are joining, and also the Dutch provinces who are joining us as well. So a warm welcome to all of you for coming together with us on a Wednesday afternoon to see how we can collaborate together. And as I mentioned, we don't do this alone, but we do this with a wonderful group of embassies. And actually, at this time, I would like for those of the representatives of the embassy who are present, if you can turn on your camera, say hello, maybe drop a hello on the chat to be sure that folks in your region and your island, in your jurisdiction, know how to get in contact with you, know a name and a face. And as I mentioned, this is the third session this year that which we are using to address, to connect with our colleagues in the Caribbean. And for us, it's just a pleasure to be together talking about these issues. Why do we do this? Actually, we want to create new links between the Dutch and Caribbean water experts. If there are some project collaborations that are already existing between Dutch and Caribbean partners, we want to highlight them. We want to make sure that they are known to your neighbors, to see if there are any lessons to be learned that can be exchanged in the region, and also to understand local visions for adaptation in the Caribbean. So we also welcome a lot of times your input and the local experts, and how you are shaping also this process of visioning what will be the future for adaptation, and actually also the present. I am together with a team, so if you see my colleagues on the chat, they can help you also directly if you want to, if you have any questions as well. But without going too far, I do want to just ask everyone if you can link to this brief questionnaire or go to menti.com and enter this code, or just scan it if you can scan it from the screen. The code my team is going to put on the chat, and it is 51472561. And there we want to see basically, where are you joining us from today? Are you in the Netherlands? Are you in the Caribbean? In which island are you coming from? So we'll let this run because I see some people are joining in and are just beginning to put their island. We also want to know if you are new or if you joined the earlier sessions, to see how many people are repeating, how many people are coming back. If you are new, we welcome you. If you were here from the first session, we are very glad that you're back. And we hope that we can continue building this very wonderful professional relationship with you. Today, we will have, after our plenary discussion with the Inter-American Development Bank, we will have our breakout sessions, our online water booths, where you can actually come today to ask directly the experts. So for the breakout session 1, we're going to be talking about energy efficient water solutions. We understand that the islands are, of course, have a lot of challenges when it comes to energy efficiency. I think all around the world we're tackling this challenge. So we want to be sure that we have this conversation, because sometimes we hear in different countries, is water or energy, but actually, can we tackle both together? Can we identify solutions and approaches that can help us tackle the water emergency without forgetting the energy? For breakout session number 2, we will have public-private partnerships, public-private impactful projects. And for this session, we will have OBM Legal, One Architecture, the Inter-American Development Bank, and Rebel Group. On the breakout session 1, we will have FMO, the Dutch Development Bank, Dutch Water Prevention, and LG Sonic. For breakout session number 3, we will have a topic on conversation on resilient coastal management. And here we will have a conversation with City Forster, with Ithaca Solutions, Haskoning, and Fugro. So it will be a really nice interactive chat. Breakout session number 4, we'll have solutions for resilient coasts. This is more geared towards water tech solutions. And here we will have Dutch Water Prevention, MARES, Offscape, and Hakeve. And for breakout session number 5, we will have water scarcity and efficient solutions for islands. So this is water tech, which can help us with the few water that we have, fresh water that we have in the islands. How can we make the most out of these resources? And for that, we have Local Leaves, CONCAF, Elemental Water Makers, Haskoning, and Rainmaker Holland. So without further ado, I would like to give a special welcome, and my team will also spotlight today Anaite Mills, who is joining us as Climate Solutions Specialist for the Inter-American Development Bank. Welcome, Anaite. It was a pleasure actually to also see you on the last sessions, and thank you because you made so many wonderful comments and engagement in our session that we thought, okay, we have to invite her to talk how she's seeing, especially looking at your biography, just working in so many different places in the Caribbean from different roles, how you are seeing this challenge as also somebody from the region. So today, take it away, Anaite, and just we have 15 minutes and we will have also a discussion afterwards, but the public is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the Kingdom of the Netherlands and the Netherlands Water Partnership for inviting the IDB group and for give us this space to talk. I do not get tired of webinars yet. I think these spaces are absolutely critical and essential for this knowledge exchange and for us to network if there is a a challenge to move in person. So I encourage you to continue these very fantastic sessions, and whoever else wants to do a session, please send me an invitation. I'm always happy to participate. So Janet mentioned my name, Anaite, Anna, however you want to call me. At the IDB, I have responsibility for directing our support and efforts to Guyana and Suriname. I've worked for the IDB in the Bahamas, in Jamaica, in Belize, and Trinidad and Tobago. And now at the IDB, we focus on three main areas, which is concessional finance, policy support, and Paris Agreement alignment. So we make sure that all the projects that are proposed and designed within the IDB group are Paris Agreement aligned. So before we begin, I would like to briefly acknowledge the ongoing recovery efforts in Jamaica following the Hurricane Melissa. Just yesterday, I read the news that the Netherlands and the European Union delivered emergency relief supplies, including generators, medical materials, and shelter support to the island, and for those communities that are very affected, but there is a need for so much more. So if you're Jamaican, if you're connected to Jamaica in some sense, or like me, or simply value the island's cultural contribution to the world, I please encourage you to explore trusted relief initiatives, and if you feel compelled to donate, every contribution helps. There's a lot of communities that are still not getting relief support because roads are inaccessible, bridges have been lost, and there is still a lot of infrastructure recovery works that are happening in the island. So I'm gonna share in the chat a link that one of my very good friends put together with trusted initiatives so you can explore at your own time. So having said, and it's funny, well, not funny, but it's definitely interesting that following a hurricane and a very, very monster storm, we find ourselves talking about water. And I believe that water is increasingly becoming the stress test for climate resilience for coastal nations in the Caribbean and in the Amazon basin. The water is a challenge of climate resilience. Across the region, communities face overlapping challenges: rapid onset flooding, sea level rise, groundwater salinization, freshwater scarcity. These pressures are not theoretical for the Caribbean. They are not theoretical for the Amazon. They are already eroding coastlines, affecting agriculture, and threatening livelihoods. It is interesting that we're having this conversation just as we're moving and looking forward to the outcomes of COP30 in Belém. So today I would like to explore with you how we can move from ideas to action and how a value chain approach can help us implement nature-based solutions and hybrid water resilience solutions at scale. This value chain approach, I got it, is an inspiration from one of my very good friends who dedicated her PhD on value chains. And I think value chains is a very good approach to think about where do you find yourself and where does your institution fall in a value chain of solution. So for that, I would like to invite you to travel virtually with me to Suriname. I would like to show an image on the screen. If one of my colleagues from NWP can do that now. I see it already. So what you will see in your screen is the community of Weg Narzé. I probably mispronouncing it because, as you can tell, I'm not a Dutch speaker. I'm sure somebody here can say it better than me. But Weg Narzé, as the translation means, road to the sea. This is is the coastline that is the closest to the Paramaribo city. It's considered by Surinamese the vegetable garden of Paramaribo. And so what's happening in Suriname is that this incredible 41-kilometer coastline, which is situated in the northwest of Suriname's capital of Paramaribo, is rich with mudflats, with mangroves. There's a lot of agricultural land. Farmers are producing cabbage, eggplants, tomatoes, cucumbers. There's cattle, there's fishing communities. There's a lot of economic activity happening in that coastline. In recent years, the area has suffered particularly for coastal flooding, erosion, and a lot of salinization of soil. So over the recent decades, a lot of very important and very involved Dutch experts have come to the country to study the area, to study the coastlines. I'm sure many of you who are in this call may have been involved. And new restoration techniques have been identified. There is many feasibility studies of what could we consider if dredged material can be used from the Suriname River as a coastal nourishment, restoration techniques to replant mangroves, coastal buffers. So there's many pathways identified for the coast, great defenses, green approaches, nature-based solutions, hybrid, green-grade solutions. And while all of this is being studied and explored and discussed with the government, we all know that each of these solutions do not protect completely the coastline. All the strategies require time. And while we develop them, livelihoods must remain protected without undermining long-term outcomes. So my question to you is, how do we get solutions from concept to financing to delivery to long-term benefit to the community? And that's where I want to place yourselves in Suriname as you're looking at this problem. Probably you're from a utility and you're thinking about reducing maintenance costs and tackling service disruption. Maybe you're from the local government thinking about the communities, displacement, economic loss. Maybe you're from the private sector. You're thinking how to the risk investment, where the investment opportunities could be, where is the innovation in markets. And for communities in Suriname, it's all about survival, dignity, and climate justice. So in thinking about this, in the value chain of action, you have to place yourself, whether you are in component that speaks to technology, whether you are in the funding component, whether you can bring your expertise in community mobilization, in training, in capacity building. Resilience doesn't happen isolated. It has to be connected across a pipeline, from problem identification, from mapping the hotspots of where the risk is, the economic loss is, the livelihoods lost, to moving for technical origination, thinking about the strategies. Is it green? Is it gray? Is it hybrid? Are we using new restoration techniques? Are we using attenuation structures, beach nourishment, mangrove rehabilitation? And then you have to think about regulatory and spatial planning. Suriname is working very expeditiously to get a new spatial planning act, where there is a mangrove strategy in place, but the budget and the financials are not quite there. The financial mechanisms is where most projects stall. Adaptation finance still accounts for only 7% of tracked global climate investment. Yet countries like Suriname are in urgent need of bankable nature-positive projects. So we need to unlock climate funds. We need to unlock innovative public-private partnerships. We need to look into concessional windows and results-based financing frameworks. And then, even when you have already identified the finance, we still need to think about delivery and procurement, capacity and knowledge transfer. So from my point of view, and before I start closing, I want to bring three enablers that we must strengthen, and hopefully we will discuss about those today. First of all, and I'll ask my colleague to move on to our three blurbs that I would like to share with you, is that we need to work on partnerships and governance. We must better connect. We cannot work in isolation. Dutch ministries and embassies, technical agencies, local water operators and utilities. We have to create more of these spaces in which we bring different players to the room. We can bounce different perspectives, and we can do it virtually, we can do it in person, but these ways of connecting need to continue. Fragmentation is the silent killer of resilience. So we cannot work in fragmentation in isolation when we're trying to tackle this type of issues. When it comes to financing mechanisms, we exist, the multilateral development banks, including the IDB group. We help bridge the early stage of financing gap with the governments. We look into pipelines of projects. We look into nature positive investment frameworks, and we help to also invest in the enabling environment. So for example, the private sector wants to finance. We at the IDB support the governments into accelerating their regulation, their policies, their permitting, the environmental permitting that is necessary for private sector or water companies that bring solutions to be able to operate in these communities. And last but not least, we need to think about knowledge sharing and capacity building. I'm very happy to see here some players in this call that are looking into strengthening South-to-South exchange, community monitoring, and creating some career pathways for local professionals, local experts, people that live in the Caribbean and the Amazon, to have the capacity to support technical water solutions, to support projects, to mobilize communities. Because you can have the best solutions, but if the community is not on board, if the government is not on board, your project, your solution is going to stall. There's a lot of studies by the Dutch Caribbean, by very reputable experts that can serve as replicable models of knowledge sharing and capacity building. Where the IDB stands and what we are committed to support hybrid and nature-based infrastructure approaches. We have two windows. We have the IDB group that works with the public sector. That's where I sit. I work with governments, with ministers of work. We work in policy. We work in concessional finance. But there is the IDB Invest, is also the private sector that is looking always for opportunities to invest at scale. We integrate the spatial planning and environmental management into policy reforms. That's absolutely essential for any intervention of the Inter-American Development Bank. We strengthen coastal monitoring capacity. We mobilize concessional finance. So projects that are looking into strengthening coastal using hybrid solutions can also be benefited by the Green Climate Fund, by the Global Environmental Facility. So we mobilize those climate grants and also water grants. The IDB just recently approved an IDB Green Climate Fund, Amazon Water Resilience Fund, that will be available for at least 6 Amazon countries, including Suriname and Guyana. And we help building local institutional capacity, because if you don't have the government on board, and it's not perhaps because of lack of interest, the government and know the situation of coastal resilience, know what's the impact to the economy and the different livelihoods of communities. But we have to acknowledge that a lot of people have left the country. A lot of people are migrating because of climate change. And in that migration, we're losing expertise. So we need to build that expertise with our young professionals and university students. And across Latin America and the Caribbean, the IDB portfolio includes green gray coastal defenses, mangrove regeneration, climate resilience drainage, flood risk zoning, and water security planning. So I'm going to close this on 15 minutes on the dot, asking you, where are you in the value chain? Think about where are you in the value chain? Are you identifying the problem? Are you generating data? Are you originating technical solutions? Are you financing? Are you enabling procurement? Are you building capacity? Are you sustaining impact through community stewardship? Please answer that question, and I welcome you to the value chain of action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anaiti. I really appreciate that overview, and also to bring such a relevant example as Suriname, because it's a country, of course, with a lot of ties to the Netherlands, and there's a lot of also, we see it actually in our everyday lives, also in our coworkers and the people who are also here. So I think it's wonderful to also bring such a present example of an opportunity to collaborate more closely together. And thank you also for acknowledging, of course, the situation that our colleagues in Jamaica are living with Hurricane Melissa. Is also, for me, was very curious to be planning this together with a lot of colleagues in the region who were actually also going through the recovery process of this. So also maybe this is also really relevant to the DRS team from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, RVO, who joined on the first session. I'm not sure if they are here today, but just really amazing examples that show us that we need to be working together on this. I'm going to live with this maybe a spirit of collaboration between the islands and actually the Caribbean as a whole, and the colleagues that we have also in the Netherlands, to go to the online water booths that we have planned, to have an engagement, a discussion on, practical also questions that we may have with the Dutch and Caribbean experts. I'm going to one more time share on the screen what are the different groups, so that you can make your decision on which room you think is most appropriate for you based on the questions that you have. So we have on breakout session 1, we have the Dutch Development Bank, LG Sonic, and Dutch Water Prevention. And actually that is an error, because Dutch Water Prevention will be on one of the resilient coasts. So our apologies for that. Breakout session number 2 will have public-private partnerships, and there we have OVM Legal, One Architecture, the Inter-American Development Bank, and REBO. Session number 3 will have Resilient Coastal Management, and there we'll have City Forster, Ithaca Solutions, Haskoning, Fugro, and Dutch Water Prevention. Room number 4 will have Solutions for Resilient Coasts, and there we'll see colleagues working on water tech solutions for the coast, including Obscape, Dutch Water Prevention, Mars, and HKV. And last but not least, we will have in room number 5, Water Scarcity and Efficiency Solution for Islands. At this point, I want to invite everyone to look at the bottom of your team, of your Zoom controls. There should be a space where there are 4 different squares. If you click there, you will get a new window that will give you the different groups that you can join, and you can start clicking on which room you want to join. I see some people already moving. Now, if you have an old version of Zoom, we may need to add you. So for that, we really need you to rename, to go into the participants window at the bottom of your Zoom and find your name, click on more, and rename yourself and let us know which room you want to attend. Otherwise, we will assign you to a room randomly, but perhaps you have a specific preference. So we are going to be doing that. So I think the next 5 minutes, we will transition into these online rooms so that we can have a discussion. For those, again, you want to look at the bottom of your Zoom controls and look for the breakout sessions. There are like 4 squares. So our team was going to, if you need some help and you don't put it on the chat, please, if you can just rename. So for example, I see somebody called St. Kitts. If you can rename, let us know which room you are intending to go. We will be transitioning you to a room. It will take us, I think, around 5 minutes to get all to our proper sessions. So let's give each other a little bit time and when we go into our session. Excellent. I see St. Kitts has renamed themselves, so thank you very much. And for my colleagues who are still around, if we can get some help also positioning people to the correct rooms, just to be sure. Excellent, excellent. We had such good discussion on the breakout session. So it's really nice to see also the plenary discussion again.
Janet, may I ask a question while people are coming back in?
Yes, sure.
So, obviously we can, we know it happened in our breakout session, those that were in there, but how can we find out what the discussion sounded like in other breakout sessions?
That's a great question because right now we're going to give a recap. We're going to do a little tour through all of them, and we're going to be sharing a little bit a recap of what did we discuss. And if something sounds really interesting, we're going to ask, please feel free to ask on the chat or also just raise your hand so that we can get that person's information as well. But yeah, it was, I don't want to do it prematurely because I think we have to wait until the people come back. But I really, for me too, I also have FOMO, Cheryl. I'm also wondering what happened at the coastal session at the PPPs. So I'm very, How was the discussion on yours, Cheryl?
It was good. It was, we had less representatives from individual countries and more from, there were several people, embassy folks there. But it was the discussion really honed in on the need to engage with the local communities often, frequently, and not really become a part of the community and co-designing any kind of adaptation solution and adaptation pathway. And then that's the most important thing, and that's what it really needs to start happening now on a regular basis and thoroughly. So I think that was the biggest take home I had.
Wow, that's wonderful. And thank you very much because there's really no shortcuts on this, right? Like creating with the local communities is so important because nobody understands the local problems the best than the local community. So I think that's a wonderful remark. So I would like to ask then for breakout session 3, we are curious, did you guys choose a representative? Can I see the Fernanda's recap or tell us a little bit more, Fernanda?
Yeah, of course. So I think Sherry already touched a bit on what we discussed in the session. We mostly focus on participation and the multiple sides of participation. I think it was something very important that was highlighted. that first to include not only one type of people that you're engaging with when you're in a specific place, but talk to private businesses, it's the government, it's the people who live there, it's everyone, to have this engagement and also be aware that it should be a flexible process, and adaptation should be flexible, should be listening to the people who are there, because exactly they live there. And as Cheryl mentioned, that usually there's this disconnect in communication, because usually these problems can come, it's very technical, and we can have this disconnect, and people might not understand exactly they live there, but if they don't understand in these technical ways of explaining the issue. So knowing who you're talking to and adapting the way you talk to people is very important, and including them in the decision making. Exactly, and just be part of the community, be in a place that everyone can contribute. Something that Dave mentioned as well was that sometimes you can be the translator of these technicalities. That is something very important. You need to translate in a way that people can relate to and understand, and let them contribute with the problem together. But yes, that's a little bit from my understanding of the conversation. Of course, if any of the experts or anyone who was in the breakout room would like to add to the summary.
No, but sounds like really a wonderful discussion, because it is really essential, and we see that there's no shortcuts to that. No, great. Thank you so much. So that was group number 3, resilient coastal management. That was really nice to hear that this was the outcome of the discussion. I will move to solutions for resilient coast. So the moderator was Machtel Hosensen. Machtel, how was it from your group?
Yes, thank you, Janet. Yeah, I think we had a great conversation. We spoke a lot about the different solutions that are applicable in different contexts, and how it's also important to see, the context and how to implement these solutions that are fitting for the context. For example, if there is, green versus gray infrastructure, for example, and sometimes, a beachfront, one of the participants was mentioning this, sometimes a beachfront is like an economic driver, for example, for tourism, and then you might need to look at different solutions. There were some excellent examples of solutions that some of the experts companies can provide, so that was great. From there, it also turned a little bit more philosophical, in the sense that we were also talking about, how are we dealing with this difference in maybe economic drivers and livelihoods of people? How are we what needs to be protected, and how are we choosing? Sometimes a context might be too big, and I think that's a great contribution was also made in with this idea of to what point can we solve this with technical solutions? To what point can we use artificial solutions to solve problems? And also, of course, we talked a lot about prevention, how prevention can often be way more feasible than providing solutions after the fact. For example, after a natural disaster. So I think that was a fruitful conversation. I'm also inviting the participants from my breakout session to add to this conversation if you have anything to say.
Thank you so much, Machtel. Really interesting, because these are the 2 topics that were, that we received most. Oh, the screen sharing is paused. But this was the session where we had the most interest as well. So, and these are maybe topics in which there are a lot of practical solutions, but very nice that you also engage into more like a reflection on, the whole thing. The whole interaction as a whole. Thank you so much for sharing that recap. Now we will go to water scarcity and efficiency solutions for island. Another one that I thought would be really nice as well, because of course, working for a water sector organization in the Netherlands, we see so many different solutions that can be so impactful. But of course, it's a whole thing of making a bridge to the users who can actually benefit from it. How did it go, Oliver?
Yes, thank you very much, Janet. And indeed, it was a very interesting topic. We had a very diverse array of companies in there. So Local Leaves, Concave, Haskoning, Elements of Water Makers, and Brainmaker Holland. This is pretty broad array of companies. So they touched upon very specific questions from the participants itself. We started off with like a gradual approach to how island states really grapple with challenges with the environment itself. What are the real biggest issues and what are the most pressing solutions? Based on these questions, they gave some real good feedback on what their own first-hand experiences were on what predominantly works. We talked about the technical aspects of desalination and the practical challenges that might come along with it. Especially Sid from Elements of Water Makers gave a good explanation of how to tackle these challenges. We had questions from the audience, which were mainly based on their own personal experiences, which was very nice to see. So we had a very concrete advice from our speakers, which was great to see. And lastly, we also talked about closing the water cycle. This is, of course, like a very big problem, and practically it's almost a perfect world when we talk about closing the water cycle. But even for this, especially from Concave and Local Leaves, we got some good feedback and actionable plans. We talked about the difficulties in social acceptance of grey water, etc. So the type of discussions that we had were very broad, but they were concise and direct. So I'm very glad to be able to have hosted this breakout session. And as per the others, I would like to give the chance to the speakers to add on to this. I do believe that most of them already left, to be fair, or at least a couple of them.
We are going a little bit over time, so thank you for sticking with us. Thank you very much. If there are no remarks, then I'll go to group number 2. They were talking about public-private partnerships. How did it go for you guys, Ruben Guerrero?
Yes, I will give a summary on behalf of the second breakout. Well, it was kind of similar conclusions when comparing to breakout room number 3, which is that the importance was stressed on engaging with local communities, with local stakeholders for PPPs and for projects, and not somewhere in the process, but really from the beginning to make sure that solutions are actually fitting the local context. Furthermore, the importance of creativity was stressed, especially regarding the fact that there can be new developments. The climate of course changes, and this can create new challenges or cause existing challenges to exacerbate. And for the creativity, one of the speakers mentioned how serious gaming can help bring different stakeholders together for them to dive into a problem and see, okay, what are different perspectives and how can these different perspectives help us solve the challenge ahead. And one other interesting part that was also mentioned is that even if you don't have regulatory frameworks for PPPs in place in a country or a SIT or on an island, you can still really engage with the way of thinking. So the concepts of PPPs can still be implemented if you don't have the regulatory frameworks to assist you with it. So that in short was the discussion we had. If there's people or speakers from my breakout room that want to add, please feel free to do so.
Great. I think creativity is it's funny, but I do think that's really appropriate, because when we think about PPPs, there are different type of formulations. And if I think about the islands, it's even more pressing that they have kind of unique dynamic systems. So I'm very glad to hear that, and also that you guys discussed what happens when your country doesn't have a PPP framework, because it's also not a lot of countries in the world have that. Jamaica, the Rebel Group is here. I know you guys work on the PPP framework with Jamaica, but yeah, it is not the usual. So great to hear like that you discuss how do you work in the meantime. Very interesting. And I will finish then with our group that was for energy efficient water solutions. And we discussed actually the cases of Trinidad, of St. Kitts, Aruba, Bonaire, and Saba, and share a little what were the most pressing challenges, and they range from challenges in the supply and distribution, challenges of maintenance of the decaying infrastructure that maybe comes up a lot also in other islands, also in not only islands, but in our collaborations around the world. Also, that there's issues with when you have a solution like, for example, desalination, that the next problem you have is high energy demand. So we discussed how we can maybe using or having more sources or more options than desalination can also maybe balance the pressure on that as well. We discussed all that heavy rains after heavy rains and also hurricane season, that you can have some stormwater management issues as well. What are the opportunities there? Also that we are seeing in the islands high energy costs, also over-reliance of imports when it comes to water solutions as well, which drives costs even to be higher. We talked about leakages as well. But overall, like the non-technical side of the discussion that we had is that we saw that it would be helpful to have like a regional sharing platform where colleagues maybe from Saba can check with colleagues in Trinidad and Jamaica and vice versa, where they can check with each other also on, as you're exploring on overcoming a challenge or you studying solutions, how has this worked in your island? Will be really helpful to have something like that. We also discussed also with LG Sonic because they spoke about their solutions. Oscar spoke about the solutions also on preventing. If we know that it is really cost and energy intensive to have good water quality, maybe preventing, pre-treating the source of water to ensure that it is less costly, less energy demanding, less chemical intensive when you're treating the water. So that was also a really good practical remark. And we also discussed, for this sharing cooperation, maybe while we have something perfect, I was also wondering if after this discussion, we should create like a LinkedIn group where we can at least find each other if you heard something interesting on this event. So keep an eye on your inbox, as everyone who has registered for this event will get like a post-event email, a recap. Also to have, maybe we will create like a LinkedIn group or something so that we can stay in touch with each other. There was also a discussion in our group about regional events, because I know we are all here because we're interested in collaborating with each other. We're interested in the Caribbean. The Caribbean representatives are also interested in keeping in touch with each other. So we discussed some conferences also that are maybe relevant for the region. So if you have one that you attend every year that you think is really relevant, can you put it on the chat? Because we're also trying to evaluate where we should be looking. And my last question, to conclude, is I also was curious if somebody's attending the COP. I think a lot of our island representatives who were in the past sessions as well were really eager to show there and connect and showcase basically what are their current efforts. So in a practical sense, if you're attending the COP, also put it in the chat. Maybe some of your colleagues here will see it and can maybe enter a more engaging exchanges. From the Netherlands Water Partnership, I wanted to thank you for joining today. I want to thank the embassies for their support on these discussions, helping us connect with each other and create this group. That actually is so nice to when I see also familiar faces, because that means that we are creating this community of, community that we can gather together to check with each other. So thank you very much for spending this time with us today. I hope it was a good conversation. Please, if you can see, if you're from the region, if you are from the islands, if you are a Dutch expert who was really interested in one of the particular places, please, if you, I think, oh, the screen is not sharing right now. I'm looking at the screen, but the screen is not sharing, sorry. Please see the emails. Our team is also going to maybe put a screenshot on the chat. And we are also going to be sharing this at the email that you get afterwards. Please check out our, the posts in the different embassies. Maybe if the embassy representative is here still, if you can say hello on the camera, because these are folks that are really eager to help you connect with your Dutch counterparts. Also to the international experts who joined us, I also saw some folks maybe not exactly from the Caribbean that, you know, they were really eager to still contribute to the conversation. Thank you for making time in your agendas as well to be with us today. We will close this session. The recording will be loaded to the MVP website. I want to thank my team who worked so diligently on this as well. I want to thank our plenary speaker, Anaite Mills, who was also wonderful. And also with this, I don't think this will be the last time that we will speak. I really love the collaboration with the IDB, and especially with Anaite, who's bringing this topic so interesting about this case in Suriname as well. If you'd like to stay in touch with us, we do invite you to go to our website, netherlandswaterpartnership.com, and at the bottom, if you go scroll down, there's a little box where you can enter your email, and then you get all of our news. Also, you can go to our social media, LinkedIn, and follow us. But I think the newsletter is one of the best ways to get in touch. Actually, I even use it to get in touch to ensure that I am in the loop of everything that is happening. For our Dutch counterparts, you must be getting nervous because it's close to dinner time. Bear with us a couple more minutes. Thank you for being here today, to all of our colleagues from the region. And let me just finish with the fact that there's definitely a lot of interest in the Netherlands on what is happening in the Caribbean and vice versa. So I'm really happy to just be the humble host who gets to witness this. And I hope that we can continue making these links. So you can see now from where people were joining. So very nice to see. And also very happy to see there were a lot of new people. So we have new friends in the region. And thanks also for the ideas. We will discuss this with the embassies because you're giving us a lot of ideas on how we can enhance the cooperation on this topic of water and climate adaptation. Really good suggestions. So thank you very much for that. And I see that today we had more like 24% of private sector organization, 5% multilateral development, 14% Caribbean national government. Very glad that you're here. Dutch national government, nice to see that as well. And private water tech organizations as well. So let's continue this. We will send also I receive a lot of emails from people that were maybe caught on meetings or had an evolving project or anything that would not be here today. We will continue sharing also with our regional distribution list, over 300 people. So just to make sure people are in the loop and didn't miss out on anything. Any concluding thoughts from also our partner IDB today, who did the plenary? Anaite, do you have any concluding thoughts on what you saw in your session?
No, I mean, there's so much to talk about, and the time went so fast. And you know what they say, you know, time goes fast when you're having fun. So thank you to the team. It was a wonderful event, really well put together. They have been in other groups, but no, thank you. Thank you for putting it together and for involving the IDB group. Until next one.
Excellent. Until the next one, and success to those who are joining the COP. Really great to have these conversations together. As you know, we are time of emergency, and we really should be addressing it as such. So thank you so much for the wonderful collaboration, and to our partners. have a wonderful rest of your day. And for those who are having dinner in 15 minutes, thanks for joining us today as well. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jeanette. Bye-bye.
Boro, thank you, thank you. Thank you.